Welcome, everyone, to our first game recap of the regular season. This is for September 7th. The Detroit Lions just defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 21-20. Jared Goff had a decent game, but I think this is going to be more of what we're going to see this season. This team's going to be built on running the football. 22 of 35 for Goff, 235 and a touchdown. Solid day for him. David Montgomery led the way for all rushers. He had 74 yards on 21 carries and a touchdown. The yards per carry isn't great, but Jahmyr Gibbs had 7 carries for 42 yards. He's been ranked ahead of David Montgomery consistently on all boards. And, this is only the first game, and it's the very first game of Gibbs' career. So I don't want to make any sweeping judgments based off of this, but I think it is interesting that David Montgomery is clearly the more built back. Like, he can take more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs can right now. Jahmyr Gibbs' frame looks a little thin. I think he's not quite where he needs to be a feature back yet. So even though he didn't have a huge game here, I think his role is going to develop as the season goes on. But having said that, we should put a ceiling on how high we think Jahmyr Gibbs can get to, because David Montgomery is going to be the lead back here, and if this game is any indication, he played really well out there. He looked good. He was getting yards. He got the touchdown. This is a good running back. They paid him starter money in the offseason. He's going to be the lead guy. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be more of a complement role, and he's going to have games where he just pulls off a giant run and he gets huge explosive plays. But that part of the game is not as predictable as we see David Montgomery getting all the carries. So David Montgomery, and on top of that, David Montgomery looked good getting all the carries. So, and they paid him starter money in the offseason. So he's not going to go away. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have good games, but David Montgomery is going to be a thing here long term. So keep an eye on that. It'll be interesting to see if the consensus puts David Montgomery ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs after this game. That's what I'll be looking out for, but I don't know if I'm quite there yet, because I think his role is going to develop, like I said earlier. But this is definitely a sign that David Montgomery's role could be bigger than a lot of people were anticipating going into the year. And that gets us to the receivers. I'll pull up this real quick. This is the snap count chart. This is from PFF. And look at the snap discrepancy here between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. 55 snaps for David Montgomery and only 19 for Jahmyr Gibbs. That is definitely something to watch out for. Amon-Ra St. Brown, no surprise there, led the way in all routes run, led the way in snaps for all receivers. Josh Reynolds was behind him for all receivers. But Sam Laporta, look at that. 58 snaps compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown's 66. More than any receiver besides St. Brown. He also had 26 routes run. He's going to be behind Josh Reynolds in the routes run, but that snap count is definitely something we want to watch out for. And Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way in targets. Josh Reynolds not far behind him, and Sam Laporta getting 5 targets. So definitely watch out for that. Josh Reynolds had those 4 catches for 80 yards. He led the way in receiving yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown led the way in targets and catches. He had 6 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Of course, I had the over 6.5 for him in this game, so of course they nail it right at 6. Sam Laporta, he looked good out there. 5 catches for 39 yards. You always want to be wary of a rookie tight end, but he looked really good, and he's not far behind. And he had more catches than Josh Reynolds. He didn't have as many routes run, but still, he's going to have a role in this offense. So you can absolutely do worse than Sam Laporta on this team. But I think the big takeaway here is that, I didn't mention that Jahmyr Gibbs only had 2 catches for 18 yards. Brock Wright had 2 catches for 17. And Marvin Jones had 2 catches for 8. But the big takeaway is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Is he going, in the consensus, are they going to move? They're definitely going to move him closer to David Montgomery, but how much closer is Montgomery going to lap him? That's going to be something we're going to have to watch out for. For the Chiefs, they were without Travis Kelce in this game, and it was surprising to see how bad, how obvious it was that they missed him out there, because Kadarius Toney dropped a ton of balls. They just weren't getting much receiving output at all. Patrick Mahomes is hitting guys in stride too, and they just weren't able to haul it in. So they missed Kelce in a big way. If anything, if there's any chance that you could trade for Travis Kelce right now, like if someone's just fed up and frustrated that they couldn't play him the first week of the season, please go after him because that is going to be a tremendous value. If anything, this game is indicative of how badly they need Travis Kelce for this offense to work and how often they're going to work him in when he is there. So trade for Travis Kelce if you can. This is not... and the other thing is this injury, he almost played through it. Like this was all the way till game time, and he just injured it 2 days ago. So now they don't play again until next Sunday. So they're going to have a 10-day period here where Travis Kelce can get rest on an injury that he almost already played through. So Travis Kelce is going to be a tremendous value. Please get him if you can. Again, like that. Like it's shocking to me that people are down on Travis Kelce right now. Mahomes led the way for all rushers too. He had 6 carries for 45 yards on the ground. Some interesting runs from him. Isaiah Pacheco. This is fascinating that Pacheco had 8 carries for 23 yards. CEH had 6 carries for 22. Jerick McKinnon didn't have any rushing output, but in the receiving output, he only had a catch for 10 yards. There just wasn't much work for running backs, period, in this game. And they didn't have much going either because Pacheco was averaging 2.9 yards a carry. CEH 3.7 is fine, but they just weren't really using their running backs here. Disappointing for Pacheco fantasy managers. CEH is going to be a thing on the ground. I don't think he's going away. I don't know if it's going to be this close long term, but this is absolutely concerning. Definitely something we want to watch out for because, Pacheco did get hurt, but at the same time, CEH was getting a lot of touches before then too. So watch out for CEH. The threat of him taking some carries away from Pacheco is very real. I don't think he's ever going to overlap Pacheco, but keep an eye on that. Sky Moore had a rush for 4 yards. Kadarius Toney had a rush for -1. Really rough day for Toney today. Rashee Rice also had a carry for -3. And for the receivers, I'll pull up this receiving chart for them as well. This is from PFF. Sky Moore led the way for all receivers in snaps. He had 29 routes run, and even though he led the way in snaps, MVS beat him in routes run. So that's something to watch out for. Rashee Rice only had 20 snaps and only 12 routes run, and he was super productive. And if you're taking your per snap production here, Rashee Rice led the way there. Kadarius Toney had all the opportunities in the world, so his role is probably going to come down a little bit. Justin Ross, it's surprising that Justin Ross doesn't get more play because he got a ton of rave reviews out of camp. He would have been a first-round receiver if he didn't have the neck issue. And since he made this 53-man roster and he was active, unless there's some health thing that we don't know about, he should absolutely be getting more playing time. I wonder what's really going on there because he definitely has the talent for it. Isaiah Pacheco also led the way in running back snaps. He had 31 to Jerick McKinnon's 20 and CEH's 14. CEH did the most with his snaps. Only having 14 snaps and 6 carries is great per capita production there. Isaiah Pacheco didn't do it. Like, he had the most snaps and the most routes run, but he just didn't do a whole lot with them. So that was a little disappointing to see. I'm not sure if we can walk out of this game feeling super confident about any of these backs. And Noah Gray led the team in tight end snaps of 57, and Blake Bell is behind him in 26. And MVS led the way in receiving yards. He had 2 catches for 48 yards. Justin Watson was close behind him. He had 2 catches for 45. Noah Gray had 3 catches for 31. Isaiah Pacheco had 4 catches for 31. Rashee Rice had 3 catches for 29 and a touchdown. Blake Bell had 2 catches for 12 and a touchdown. Jerick McKinnon only had 1 catch on 2 targets. CEH had 1 catch on 1 target. Justin Ross had the 1 catch for 6 yards on 1 target. And Kadarius Toney had 5 targets and only had a catch for a yard. So I'm expecting Kadarius Toney's role to go down next game, unless they just believe in him like crazy and they want to keep throwing him out there. But it's going to be hard to trust him after all the Like, he had so many dropped opportunities there. And Justin Ross, he should be getting more play. That's like, I think MVS did the best with his targets, but Justin Ross absolutely has the talent. It's just baffling that they don't play him more. And Rashee Rice doing this much work in, what is it, 12 routes run. He had 3 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. His role could be going up further, but I think, we didn't get a big fantasy producer out of this receiving output. The big thing for receiving is that none of these guys looked amazing, and when Travis Kelce comes back, he's going to get so much work because Patrick Mahomes can't trust these guys. Like, maybe MVS, he looks fine, and Rashee Rice had a productive day too, but it's very clear that Travis Kelce is the number 1 receiver on this team. And these running backs, I'd be worried if I was a Pacheco manager right now, because 8 carries to CEH's 6 is a little too close for someone who was drafted a lot higher than CEH in fantasy drafts. So Patrick Mahomes, still really good, but absolutely missed Travis Kelce today. And that'll do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow at We Are Drafting on Instagram, and I will see you next time.